Hello and welcome back guys to another video. Harry here, and today we are reviewing Talking Is Hard by Walk the Moon. This is the band's second album of their debut album Walk the Moon, which featured the single And a Sun on it. After hearing the song and really liking it, I checked out the guys on Spotify, found out it had a new album out, and immediately went to Amazon and bought the US single before it even came out in England. So I managed to have a good listen to this before anybody else did in the UK, and now I feel like I should do a review about it. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. First up, we have Different Colours. Now, Different Colours is a fantastic starter off for the album. It's a very sort of punchy sound while sounding very familiar to their stuff from their first album. It still shows sort of progression, it shows a new style for them, but it still has a very sort of catchy chorus, it still has the sort of elements that I heard from the first album, and they carried on very nicely into the new ones. This is a good song to start off with if you're familiar with Walk the Moon's work, because it has a familiar sort of sound to it. Now, Sidekick is very different to Different Colour because Sidekick has a very sort of subtle, more quiet chorus which complements Different Colours very, very nicely. It still has a sort of familiar sound to the Walk the Moon album, but lesser so than in Different Colours. I really like the difference in the voices. I really like Nicholas Petrica's vocals in this song. I think that it works very well against the sort of very generic sounding Different Colours to this more quiet, more unexpected than Sidekick. After this one we go on to Shut Up and Dance. Now, Shut Up and Dance is the hit song. It's in the charts everywhere at the moment. We've got massive in America, England and elsewhere. Still in the charts here in the UK, and well deserved, if I may say so myself. Clearly the dance track here is the one that makes you want to just get up and dance, move your feet around, unless you're myself, because I would probably just end the world as soon as I start busting them moves. Whilst not being the best song on the album in my opinion, it's still a very, very punchy, catchy pop rock tune. If you look at it for what it is, I think that it's a fantastic little song and well deserved of its chart success. After Shut Up and Dance we're going to Up to You. Now, Up to You has a very different sound to the previous tracks. Up to You is loud, it's got a very unexpected but very, very high-pitched and more epic rock chorus. It doesn't sound anything like the stuff on their first album, and it really does show the sort of versatility that the band have on a whole. It shows Nicholas Petrica's voice and the sort of potential that he has. The instrumentation on the song is fantastic, the riff is brilliant, and it's just so catchy you'll remember it for the rest of your day, and just the high-pitched screaming of Up to You really does resonate well into the album. Got a sort of everything sort of vibe to it, maybe a sort of Muse vibe with Matt Bellamy's falsettos, and honestly it's probably one of the best songs on the album for myself. After Up to You we get my personal favourite, which is Avalanche. Whilst Up to You is very high pitched and rock based, Avalanche is a more indie rock sort of smooth sound, whilst Up to You has a very sort of jagged sort of sound to it, and it goes up and down, it goes from high pitch to low, and just everything about it is just a bit crazy. Avalanche is a bit more relaxed and a little more mellow, and I honestly love it. I think the lyrics are beautiful, I think the ideas in the lyrics are brilliant, the instrumentation is fantastic once more, and Petrica's voice works beautifully with the style of the song. It's probably one of the best on the album, and I honestly recommend you have a listen to it as soon as you can. So next up on the album we have Portugal, which is honestly probably one of my least favourites. While it still has a very similar sound to Avalanche and does juxtapose Up to You and the more louder tracks very nicely, it doesn't do the job as Avalanche does it. While still got a very good tune, it feels a little bit obnoxious in places, and it feels like it kind of just goes up and down. It doesn't have the same sort of nice flow. It has a sort of jagged sound to it, like we hadn't Up to You, but it doesn't have the sort of violent sound to go with it, and therefore it comes out feeling like a bit of a strange tune. But it does actually have some very nice lyrics to it. The metaphors are fantastic in the song, and some lovely ideas of leaves and emotion. Whilst not one of my favourites and not really doing a lot for me, I can still appreciate it very much for its lyrics alone. If Portugal maybe took it on a bit of a nosedive, Down the Dumps would certainly take it back up again. Down the Dumps has a very sort of 80s vibe to it. It's very different, very strange, got sort of synthesised vocal effects on Petrica's voice. It is in that sort of category with Shut Up and Dance. It feels like when you could get up and dance too, which is very strange given feeling down in the dumps, and I love that, the sort of way that the tune goes completely against what the lyrics are actually trying to say. Work This Body, I feel like it's trying to bring the tune back. It's trying to bring back the sort of the life and the energy into the album, but it doesn't do its job well enough for me. There's a sort of tribal sound to it. It sounds very paced. It gives you a lot of adrenaline. It's a very rushed song, and I do like it in that aspect. It has some very nice keyboard in it, some good clapping, and the instrumentation is once again fantastic, as throughout the whole album. It's still got the punchy sort of sound to it. It feels like it's trying way too hard to try and bring back the life, when it was kind of working a lot better at sort of the mellow level. it just doesn't do it for me. After Work This Body, we take a complete nosedive of the song Spend Your Money, which is honestly probably one of the worst songs on the album for myself. While still a very enjoyable first half, it is one of those songs which is trying to be like Up To You. It's trying to have that sort of shrill sound to it, the sort of unexpected loud sound. But because Up To You's done it already, it doesn't leave much of an impact on you. It's been done before, and therefore, whilst the riff is fantastic, whilst the vocals are brilliant, it just feels a little bit out of place, especially where it is in the track listing, where it feels like the album should go a bit slower and a little bit more mellow, but instead we've got this very, very loud track that has this very sort of random second half, where it feels like those random sounds, screams and instruments are just rammed together to make this sort of strange, mismatched second half to the song, and it just doesn't work. Now this sort of punchy sound that you have in Spend Your Money, that sort of really loud sound, would work interestingly towards the beginning of the album, were Up To You maybe not in the album, but because both songs are in there, it feels like a bit of a mismatch, especially in the placement of Spend Your Money, which comes straight before the song We Are The Kids. And We Are The Kids has a very sort of Avalanche vibe to it, even more so with the sort of relaxed sounds. It sounds like a very sort of happy, fun tune, bouncy, it reminds you of your childhood. It has a really sort of youthful idea to it. I really do love the song. I think it's got some lovely lyrics again, and it's just got a really nice sort of feel to it. After We Are The Kids, which is sort of this bouncy, nice, soft tune where Petrica's voice really does shine through, we go into the song Come Under The Covers. It's an enjoyable song, it has a very sort of intimate feel to it, and it wouldn't work so much on its own, but in the album and in the context of that, it works fantastically, especially next to something as bouncy and as energetic as We Are The Kids. The two songs seem to kind of like bounce off one another, and whilst We Are The Kids is a sort of youthful idea, with Come Under The Covers you have a more sort of sophisticated idea of how love maybe affects that. It's got a very sort of emotional, sort of sad feeling to it that works fantastically towards the end of the album. After Come Under The Covers we come to the final song, which is AQUAMAN, which sounds nothing like any other song on the album, but still manages to shine through as a fantastic song by itself. AQUAMAN has a sort of rock ballad style to it. It's only a 4-minute song, but feels a lot longer than that. There's a massive progression to it. It's a really sort of nice sound. It works beautifully. It's emotional. Petrica's voice has never sounded better in the album than it does in that one final song. It works fantastically. It's got the 80s vibe from Down in the Dumps back, but still manages to get the, sort of the rock sound in, while still getting a sort of relaxed indie sound that they're after. It has everything that you want in one song, and it works brilliantly. The key change itself is brilliant towards the end, and is a highlight on the album for me, and it's honestly one of the best final songs I've heard on an album. Personally, I still really enjoy the songs, and I think the album as a whole is quite enjoyable, but it certainly has some songs that shine out as clear classics like Avalanche, Shut Up and Dance and Different Colours, whilst others slip right under the radar and really leave me with no lasting impact at all, such as Portugal and Spend Your Money. Generally, the first half of the album has a far more consistent, more punchy sound than the second half, which feels like it's trying to kind of alternate between sort of happy songs and sort of a nice soft rhythm, and then all of a sudden these very loud and very explosive, high-pitched sounds, and it feels like the album kind of gets a little bit lost in the direction it's trying to go with. Whilst before it sounds a bit like its first album, it does have a sort of nice indie rock style to it. Suddenly they kind of lose it in the second half, and AQUAMAN kind of brings it back out and fleshes it back out towards the end, but it still has a very sort of weird mismatched idea to it, and just generally feels a bit disordered. So therefore, overall, I give Walk the Moon, Talking Is Hard a 2.5 out of 4, which is the lowest review I've done so far. Overall, this album is enjoyable though. I still recommend you having a listen to it, and it's just obviously my opinion alone. You could really, really enjoy this album, and I'm sure you will. This album has had a lot of critical acclaim, and rightfully so. It is a very enjoyable album to listen to. It just has a few weak spots for me that really do bring down the album quite considerably. You can go find this album over on Spotify, you can find it on iTunes, it's all over the place. Again, doing very, very well, very successful album, and kudos to Walk the Moon for getting to the position where they're at. So until next time guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you then. Goodbye.